What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with another of the rated games of the week held here at Chess Zone on Tuesdays. And after having a great tournament result overall from Deepak Aaron's Wolf Chess tournament, gaining around 70 points in rating, I was feeling really confident about myself, and went to Chess Zone to continue the streak, maybe hit 1900 question mark. So I was paired against Brad Lathrop, and to my longtime viewers on the channel, he's a very familiar opponent. And to my newer viewers, he's an adult that I've played a few times over the course of my tournament history, and I think I have a slightly better record against him, but he is no one to be underestimated. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the game, and without further ado, let's jump straight into the action. So I begin the game with e4, Brad goes c5, knight f3, d6, my favorite reply, and I go canal attack. I play bishop b5 check, which is my favorite of the moves I could play. And after bishop b5, Brad blocks with the knight, and I castle. He goes knight f6, and here I play the move e5, which isn't the best move here. Best was apparently to bring the rook behind the pawn and defend it like that. I kind of wanted to trade off my center pawn so that way the board's more open and, maybe more tactical. I kind of like playing e5 here because if the knight moves and his pawn doesn't take my pawn, then I would play e takes d6 here and open the e-file. So that's why I often play e5 here. But Brad does take, and after I recapture, he plays the move a6. Very logical move, and I'm essentially forced to trade some pieces on d7. So that's exactly what I do. I play bishop takes d7 check, and after knight takes, I play the move queen e2, defending the knight on e5. And here Brad trades, and I'm attacking the c5 pawn, so he logically defends it with e6. The bishop's defending it now, and he'll likely at some point go bishop e7 and castle. Although he can't do it immediately because my queen is looking at the g7 pawn, so he has to keep an eye on that as well. So after e6, I just continue with normal developing moves with d3, opening a path through the dark squared bishop. And here Brad plays a move that is not bad, but it was definitely not a move I had on my radar. He played the move f6, and there's a grandmaster here in Georgia called Ben Feingold, and he always says never play f6, and that's sort of become a meme here. But here, yeah, f6... Here, in this case, it's not like losing anything, but, it invites a check on h5. Well, you guys might say, can't the queen just be kicked back anyway? And that's true, but, if you look at the pawns here on e6, f6, and g6, he sort of pushed them a bit more than they should have been pushed. And if he were to castle king's side, his king's side is a little bit weaker. You normally don't want to push pawns where you're going to castle, so I was sort of provoking him to push this pawn in case he were to castle kingside, because now the pawns are a little bit more delicate here. So with 57 minutes, I played the move queen f3, and Brad, he came in a little late, so he's a little bit down on time. So after queen f3, Brad plays the move bishop to g7, preparing to castle next turn, and yeah. After bishop g7, I play the move bishop e3, attacking his c5 pawn, which he defends with queen to c7. I develop my knight to c3, and now Brad decides to castle. Which I thought was actually a mistake, because I could play this move knight to a4, and it's pretty hard for him to defend the c5 pawn. The problem is he can't play b6 here. If he plays b6, the rook's hanging up here, so he can't do that. And if you were to play the move c4 here, trying to advance it, I can do one of two things. I can either take it or play this move knight b6, which is a fork on the rook and the pawn. And with the other variation, I could take on c4 with the pawn, and the queen couldn't take because knight b6 would be forking the rook and the queen that just captured on c4. So either way, I thought I'd be winning a pawn here. I first was considering the move knight e4, but it's not as effective because, for one, black can play the move c4, and now that fork trick doesn't work. But more importantly, black can just, play f5 here, and you might say I can grab the pawn on c5, but then, f4 is going to happen, and I'm actually losing a piece here because my bishop's attacked, and once I move it, the queen will take the knight because my bishop can't stay on the diagonal to defend the knight on c5. So, yeah, knight a4 was the best move, and I actually thought, Brad had misplayed it, but apparently, even though I can win a pawn here, it's still fine for him. Brad should play the move rook f7 here, which he didn't play in the game. And after rook f7, the best move here is knight takes c5, and then black would play the move f5, threatening to play f4 and, kick my bishop away like in the line we previously looked at. So I'd have to actually give the pawn back to black. I'd have to play this move d4, defending the knight. So in case my bishop were to be kicked back, the knight's still defended in the end because of my pawn, and then black would just collect the pawn on d4 and be very happy, equalizing the material, attacking my knight, and maybe take on b2 at some point. But here, Brad had a deep think. I think he felt that he had messed up, and he played the move rook b8, which isn't a terrible move, but it wasn't one of the top moves. And but yeah, it's not like a significant blunder. And actually here I think about which way to take the pawn, whether to take it with the knight or with the bishop, and I spend a few minutes doing that. I end up taking the correct way, which is with the bishop, and the reason I didn't take with the knight is because after knight takes c5, I saw black could play this move b6 and kick away the knight, and once I move my knight, black would take the pawn on c2 with his queen. So after I play knight b3, for instance, black would just grab the c2 pawn, and Brad would actually be forking the b2 and d3 pawns as well. So not something I want to, give to him. So I play the move bishop takes c5 in the game, and it also attacks his rook, so I have extra time to, consolidate my pawn advantage. So after bishop takes c5, he now played rook f7, not at the right moment. And here, there's a threat that Brad has. Let me just make a random move. His threat in this position is to play the move b5. And the issue with b5 is that he hits my knight, and once I move my knight, he will take the bishop. So loose pieces drop off. My knight is a loose defender, and he's just going to be winning a piece by force here. So I have to defend my bishop in some other way. And I choose to do that with the move queen e3. And at that point, I had 41 minutes, and Brad still played the move b5 in this case, but it's not a threat because my bishop's defended with my queen now, and after playing b5, Brad had 31 minutes. I retreat to c3 with my knight, and Brad fianchettos on b7. Knight e4, and Brad sets up a battery with queen to c6. Now, he's actually threatening to play the move f5 and try to remove the knight blocking the diagonal. So if I were to play a natural-looking move like rook on f to e1, he can play the move f5, trying to remove the knight blocking the diagonal, and I can't move it because I would hang checkmate on g2, so I would again be losing a piece here. So I just do a prophylactic move. I play f3 and basically block that diagonal forever. So after f3, Brad plays rook c8. I play d4, just anchoring the bishop there, and threatening knight d6, which would fork the rooks on f7 and c8. So Brad played the move rook d8 here. I play rook f e1, just a natural move, centralizing the rook. Brad played h5. I didn't really understand that move, but after his next move, I saw what he was trying to do. So, I kind of ignored h5. I just, continued improving my pieces with rook on a to d1. And he very quickly played king h7. And I could see why he did that. He wants to put his bishop on h6, where it would attack my queen and potentially, be a better piece than when it was on g7. But I see that he wants to go bishop h6, but I'm like, it's not really a scary threat. I can just move my queen. So I continue to improve my own position. I played the move b3 here, and my idea is to play c4 and expand in the center, which isn't the right idea. I should have played queen a3 for some reason. So after b3, he played bishop h6. I just go back with queen to e2, and Brad plays the move bishop to f4, and now his bishop got more active, and it's looking at the king's side, where it poses a bit of a nuisance for me. So after bishop to f4, I just continue with, okay, I don't know why it froze for a second, c4. And here Brad plays the move f5, which isn't a great move. I just go back with my knight to f2, and I'm preparing to reroute it to h3, where I would hit his bishop and potentially play knight g5 check if he isn't careful, where it would fork the king and the rook if I had my knight on g5. So Brad here plays the move queen c7, attacking the h2 pawn twice, but I don't care. I play queen takes e6, and I'm inviting him to take it, which he does. And after king h1, he has a bit of a problem here. One of the threats I have, as you guys can see on the screen, is bishop to b6, which would be a skewer on his queen and rook. Also, if his queen's a bit overloaded here. The queen is defending the rook on f7 and also his bishop on h2. So not only would bishop b6 just be a plain skewer, the queen can't, after the queen's attacked, it can't defend both the rook and the bishop. So I would likely go on to win more than just an exchange in this position. So yeah, Brad has a lot of pieces that are loose that could potentially, and an overworked queen that could potentially be posing some very serious problems for him. So here he played the move rook on d to d7, so that way at least he defends his rook again. And here I played knight h3, threatening to go to g5 with a check, forking the king and the rook, and I had 20 minutes in this position. And Brad seems like he's, getting really close to my king. It looks kind of scary. He played queen g3, but it's not really scary at all. And here I don't find the best move, although I'm still winning after what I played. Apparently I should have just went d5 and had a +6 advantage. With the move d5, the bishop on b7 is totally useless. It's blocked by my powerful pawn chain, and black essentially has no play here. I can always kick the queen away with bishop to f2, and I have a passed pawn on d5, and my queen's great on e6, and yeah, black would just be dead here positionally. But, I notice I'm up a pawn, and I'm trying to go into the endgame. So I play queen e5, but I don't have as near a big of an advantage as if I would have played the move d5. So after queen e5, Brad had 16 minutes from queen g3, and I was surprised because he used 14 of his minutes, so he only had 2 minutes, and I'm like, why is he thinking so long? Like, getting below 5 minutes, he still wasn't moving. And I'm like, is he going to flag? Like, did he forget it was his turn? But eventually, he played the move queen takes h3, which is the best move. And it's actually a pretty tricky move because I have to take back a certain way. If I take his queen, which is what I was originally looking at, this is actually a huge mistake because after Brad recaptures, I can't take his bishop. Well, I guess I could, but if I were to take his bishop, let's say like this, with d takes, then Brad just has a fork on the rook and the king with bishop takes f3, and it doesn't matter if I take with the rook, the f3 pawn is still hanging in the end. So I would have gone on to lose the game if I had done that, but thankfully for me, I've played the move queen takes h2, and his queen's trapped, so he has to trade queens anyway. And then we enter this endgame where I'm up a pawn. And Brad here is playing very fast because he has around 1 to 2 minutes on time. Meanwhile, I have around 15. So he played the move g5. I play rook e6. He goes g4. And I don't want him to, I don't want to take and open his rook on the f-file. And he's hitting my pawn twice with the bishop and the pawn. So again, I could have played d5 here and neutralized his bishop, but I ended up playing the move f4 here, which just closes the position a little bit. He played bishop e4, just sort of anchoring it. I go king g3. He takes on c4. I take back, and at this point, I think he was playing under a minute on time. Rook b7. I go rook h1, and his h-pawn's really weak. He tries to create some sort of counterplay with rook b2, but I don't care because I play rook takes h5 check. And after king to g7, I spend several minutes here about what the best move is, even though I really shouldn't because I'm totally winning. So I notice he's attacking the g2 pawn. And I'm worried that he'll take it and, create some unnecessary counterplay. So one move I was considering was to play passive and just go rook h2 here. And I'm still winning, but, I let my advantage decrease by a great amount. Alternatively, I was thinking I could have, sacked the exchange with rook takes bishop. And after the pawn takes, maybe go behind the pawn with rook e5. But black can play rook c2 here, and my c-pawn's a goner. Yeah, and I would only be marginally better here, and this would likely go on to be a draw if I went into that line. Actually, the best move here is to play king h4, and I'm going to put my king on g5, where it's actually very safe. And let's say black takes. I'm going to slide my king to g5. And I'm already threatening a checkmate in 1 with rook to g6. And my king cannot be, attacked on that square. It's a very great square for the king. And my rooks are very close to black's king, which is the one that's unsafe, not mine. So I should have done that, and the game would have been lights out for Brad. Instead, after several minutes of thinking, I play rook takes a6, which is not a good move. Although I thought the idea was the same. I'm like, okay, I'm letting him take on g2, but after king h4, the difference here is that since he took the pawn with check, he can play rook h2 check here, and after king g5, he has the option to trade rooks on h5 here. Whereas in the previous position, because there's a pawn here, because he had to waste a time taking the pawn and it wasn't check, I have an extra move to go here, and he doesn't have the chance to trade rooks. Whereas here, he now has the option to trade rooks on h5 and basically go into an equal endgame. But because Brad is in serious time trouble, he blitzes out the move g3, which hangs checkmate in one move. And yeah, we win the game by checkmate against Brad, and he didn't see it at first, but then I pointed it out, and he, conceded and said, oh yeah, good game. And yeah, we get a win against Brad Lathrop. Not great conversion on my part. I kind of let my advantage slip up, but we still won. And if we look at the accuracy, I had one with 83.4, and he had an accuracy of 77.0. And as you can see by the eval bar, my advantage kept on growing eventually, but then I slipped, and then he massively slipped by hanging mate in 1. But yeah, we still won the game, and happy. And I'm going to go ahead and say thank you guys for watching. If you like content like this, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the game. And yeah, have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.